Let's work with the following function. What we want is to analyze it, find the amplitude, the midline, the period, and the phase. The first thing that we need to remember is what is the general form of this function. The general form for the function is a times the sine of kx minus b plus or minus m. We will always start with the easiest, that is the midline. The midline is nothing else than m in our general function. That is this, along with the sine. Since the m right here is -4, then this means that your midline is y equals to -4. What does this mean? This means that your function, that is the function of sine, is going to actually shift down vertically by 4 units. So it's going to shift vertically by 4 units. Remember that the sine function is nothing else than this. The midline is this line right here, the line that separates the function into half of it on the top, that corresponds to half of the unit circle, and half of it at the bottom. That's your midline. And this is going to be at the y equals to -4. The next thing that we want to calculate is the amplitude. The amplitude for the sine function and the cosine is nothing else than the number that is multiplied by the sine. So a. In our case, the a is 2. So the amplitude a is going to be 2. What does this show us? This shows us the vertical shift and is the distance between the midline and the maximum point. Since this is 2, this means that we are going to actually vertically stretch the function, and instead of starting, it will start at the same point, but it will go up 1 extra unit. So our function will look like this. The amplitude is equal to 2. The next thing that we want to do is to find the phase. The phase for our specific function, in general, is going to be the b. As you can see right here, there is nothing added to our function. There is nothing added to the argument. So this means that there is no phase here. There is no phase, or b is equal to 0. What does this mean in terms of the graph? In terms of the graph, it means that the y-axis will be exactly at the beginning of the sine. It will be at 0, 0. So it is not shifted horizontally, left or right. The last thing that we want is to identify the period. What is our period? The period is going to be given by the initial period for the sine divided by k. In our case, k is 3. So I need to divide 2 pi by k. The result will be 2 pi thirds. And this is your period. What is the period? The period is the distance, the horizontal distance, between the initial point of my function, that in this case is this because I don't have any phase, and the final point of one whole circle, the wavelength. This is the wavelength. So this means basically that from here to here the distance is 2 pi thirds. If you want to find what this point is, this is going to be half of 2 pi thirds. So this is the point 2 pi thirds. This is the point 2 pi 6. And this is half of the distance. So this point right here is going to be 2 pi 12ths. That is nothing else than pi 6. So this is what you need to do in order to graph your function. So now if you go up and you graph the function, you want to identify your points. The first points that you will identify are the period. What is your period? 2 pi thirds. So be careful. It's 2 pi thirds, not 3 pi halves. 2 pi thirds. So basically I need to split the 2 pi right here into 3 points, into 3 intervals. Let's say somewhere here and somewhere there, not somewhere here. Actually, it's not going to be right there. It's going to be somewhere here, pi thirds and 2 pi thirds. So assume that this point right here is going to be the 2 pi thirds. Your function will start at 0, 0. It will end at 2 pi thirds. And it will also cross at pi thirds. Based on this function right here. Also, you know that the amplitude is 2. So, in the middle point, in between those x-intercepts, the amplitude will reach a maximum at 2 and will reach a minimum at -2. Basically, at this point, you have everything that you need to know in order to complete your function except of the midline. Everything that I have graphed for the maximum and the minimum are if the midline is y equals to 0, meaning if I didn't have any shift. But I do have a shift. The shift is right here. So I need to shift all these points down by 4 units. So I shift this point down by 4 units, this down by 4 units, this down by 4 units, this down by 4 units, and this also needs to come down by 4 units, and this will reach somewhere here, that is the -6. So my function will look like this. -6. And this is the graph of my function. The midline is at -4. The amplitude, as you can see right here, is equal to 2. And the period is at 2 pi thirds.